Hello, welcome to this discussion. We are going to look at calculus. Another question which is saying find the derivative of the function 1 over square root of x by using the first principle. Okay, now how do we get to solve this one? Before we do anything, first need to know what the first principle is. That is in terms of the formula. Okay, now first principle is written in this manner, which is f prime of x, which is equal to the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. So this one is simply our formula for us to simply solve this problem. Okay, now let's get started. Now, first to find the derivative, we're simply going to say f prime of x, which is equal to the limit as h approaches 0. So since our function is 1 over the square root of x, so mean that while there is x, we're going to add x plus h for us to substitute here. So this will give us something like 1 over square root of x plus h. Then I'm going to say minus 1 over x, that's the original function, divided by h. Okay, now what do we do from there? I'm simply going to say the limit as h approaches 0. So here we're simply going to find the common denominator. Then from there, the same common denominator, it will be the one that will be multiplied with the numerator. So when we do that, we're simply going to have square root of x minus square root of x plus h over the square root, which is over the common denominator, which is x plus h. So we're going to say the limit, when you do everything there, we're simply going to get square root of x minus square root of x plus h over the common denominator, which is square root of x plus h multiplied by the square root of x, like this, over h. Now, after doing this, what we're simply supposed to do, we're going to say the limit as h approaches 0 of, so you're going to multiply both this part and the one down with the common denominator. So we're going to have square root of x minus square root of x plus h, like this, over square root of x plus h multiplied by the square root of x over h. So there we multiply with the common denominator, which is square root of x plus h, which is multiplying the square root of x. So we do the same even down, so it will be square root of x plus h to multiply the square root of x, like this. Now from there, this and that will divide, which will give us a value of 1. So we are going to have the limit as h is approaching 0 of square root of x minus square root of x minus square root of x plus h, which will now divide with h, multiplying with square root of x plus h multiplied by the square root of x. Okay, now what we're going to do next for this one is simply multiplying both the numerator and the denominator with the conjugate of the numerator. So I'm going to have conjugate is simply just changing the sign, but the values will be maintained the way they are. So we're going to have square root of x. When you change the sign, they are going to have a positive square root of x plus h over square root of x plus square root of x plus h, like this. Now, after doing this, what we are required to do is going to start multiplying this part with the other part, and even the one which is done this part with the other part. So when you multiply square root of x times the square root of x, you're simply going to get what? So first write the limit as h approaches 0. So when you multiply the square root of x times the square root of x, simply going to get a value of x. Then you are going to say square root of x times the square root of x plus h, you are simply going to get a positive square root of x to multiply with the square root of x plus h. We have a negative there, when you multiply the square root of x plus h times the square root of x, you're simply going to get square root of x to multiply with the square root of x plus h. Now, what comes after that one is when you multiply this by that, so this is negative, that is positive. So we're going to have a negative. Now, when you multiply the square root of x plus h times the square root of x plus h, so we're going to get x plus h like that. Now this be divided with the denominator, of which the denominator won't be changed to just pretend the way it is, which is square root of x plus h multiplying with square root of x, again multiplying the square root of x plus square root of x plus h, like this. Okay, now what do we do after this? This Okay, now before we do that, let's work out the bracket. So we have the limit as h approaches 0 of x plus square root of x multiplied by square root of x plus h minus square root of x multiplied by the square root of x plus h minus, we get x, negative x there, a negative h over what we have down there, which is h square root of x plus h multiplied by square root of x multiplied by the square root of x plus square root of x plus h, like this. So after that, what we're simply going to get is this and that will be cancelled. Even this part and this part will be cancelled. So we are going to only remain with the limit as negative as h approaches 0 of negative h over what we have down there, which is h open brackets square root of x plus h multiplied by square root of x multiplied by the square root of x plus square root of x plus h, like this. Now after this, what we're going to get, the h and the h will divide, meaning that we're going to have the limit as h approaches 0 of what, of negative 1 over square root of x plus h multiplying with square root of x, again multiplying with square root of x plus square root of x plus h. Now where we've reached here, what we're simply going to do is wherever there is h, we're going to substitute with a 0, meaning that we're going to get, and because of space, allow me to write this part here. Let me take it there, somewhere there. So this will be negative, so that will give me negative 1 over, now wherever there is x, we substitute with the 0, meaning I'm going to have square root of x plus 0, like that, multiplying the square root of x, we're going to say multiplying again with the square root of x plus square root of x plus 0, like that. Okay, now after this, what I'm going to get, I'm simply going to get something like negative 1 over, now when I get rid of this, when I get rid of the 0, meaning I'm going to get, when I multiply x times x, I'm going to get x, like that. Now when I add x plus, the square root of x by the square root of x, I'm simply going to get the square root of 2. I'm going to get 2 square root of x, like this. So mean that this will end up being negative 1 over 2x square root of x, like that. Thank you for watching this video.